besties, welcome back to another video. We are back with another monthly wrap-up. So we're going to talk about all the books that I read in the month of February, and this is really a mixed bag kind of month. We have so many different genres, so many different vibes going on, and a lot of different ratings. I feel like there was a lot of books that I really loved this month, and then a lot of books that I actually was thoroughly disappointed by. But we're going to talk about all of it. I'm so excited to dive in. We have how many books? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We have 12 books that we're going to be talking about, and that's pretty good. February is a short month, so that's pretty good for me. A couple of them are really short books, like almost novella status, and you'll see what I'm talking about pretty quickly as we start talking about them. But anyways, we're going to go through the 12 books that I read in February and just kind of give my thoughts, my opinions, my ratings, you know, all that jazz. So if you're subscribed to me, some of these might be repeats because I've been doing a lot of really fun reading vlogs. So you'll see like kind of those same books pop up, obviously, because I read them this month. But if you're not subscribed to me, what the heck, man, make sure you are and go back and watch those vlogs for like more in depth and watching me actively read the books. All right, let's jump in. We have 12 books to talk about. I don't want to take your entire day, so let's dive in. If you notice me looking down a lot, I have my reading journal here, and I will link my reading journal. I'm obsessed with this reading journal. Some people are super crafty and they make their own, like out of bullet journals, or like they put together their own reading journal. I don't have the patience or the creativity for that. This is my absolute favorite, so I'll make sure I link that in the description if you want one. Anyways, I started off February with a genre that is very outside of my norm, and that is a dark romance series. So I started the Mindf series. I am always so cautious that YouTube's gonna censor me, so Mindf, you know what I'm talking about. I read The Risk and Sidetracked. I listened to them on audio. They are so short, like 3 to 4 hours-ish each. I think later in the series they get a little bit longer, but the first ones especially are super duper short. This is basically, the female is a serial killer. She's getting revenge on men that really ruined her life. Like they did unspeakable things to her in her past, and she's back for revenge. So she's a serial killer and she is dating an FBI agent working on her case. Super twisted, super dark. If you don't like graphic, gory, anything like that, not the series for you. I honestly think I might fall into that category, so I'm just gonna jump ahead. I read The Risk and Sidetracked back to back, and then I read a couple books, and I read the third book, Scarlet Angel. I stopped after Scarlet Angel, and I think there's only 5, so I like really only had 2 books left to go in the series, and I stopped. I don't know if I'll go back. I might go back. I don't know. I think maybe dark romance isn't for me. I like my frou-frou, like sports romance, hockey romance, like, you know what I mean, the billionaire romance. I didn't love these. I felt like I wasn't super captivated, and I also felt like the story was a little bit drug out. Like it went on a little bit too long, just with like different side plot lines going on. I don't know. If you've read these, I've heard really amazing things. I feel like a lot of people talk like this is the meshing point where like even if you don't like dark romance, you'll like these books. Personally, they weren't for me. I gave all of them, I gave the first 2 3 stars, and then I gave Scarlet Angel book 3 only 2 stars. Just not for me. I forgot to put my rings on today. That makes me sad. Then after those books, I went on to Educated, and this was on my February TBR. If you follow me on TikTok, which you should, you saw this was on my February TBR. I've been meaning to get to this memoir for so long. Basically, this is Tara Westover's story, her memoir, and she grew up in Idaho, and her dad basically distrusted all forms of government. So like no medical care, no schooling, no anything. And she didn't set foot in a classroom until she was 17 years old. This is absolutely mind-blowing. I loved this book. I listened to this partially on audio, and the audio of this was phenomenal. Like the narration in this book was absolutely amazing. I was shook at like, this is her lived experience, and it just really makes you appreciate education. And I don't know, it was so good. I didn't expect to enjoy this as much as I did, but I was like absolutely mind blown reading this book, and it was just captivating in the best way possible. wow. But there's a few parts in this book that are kind of heartbreaking. They're a little bit heavier to read, so just be aware of that. But as a whole, would thoroughly recommend this. I don't rate memoirs or poetry because I feel like it's not my place to rate someone else's lived experience, so I'm not giving this a rating, but I will say that I thoroughly enjoyed this book and would highly recommend. And then I read one of my favorite books that I've read so far this year, and that is Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. And you might be like, what the heck? That's not out yet. I was so fortunate to get an ARC of this book, so I got the advanced reader copy. This comes out on April 2nd. You guys need to go pre-order this. I love this so much. This might be my second favorite Abby Jimenez book. Yours truly is number one forever and ever. But this book was so dang good. There's a line in this book, I posted about it on TikTok and Instagram, and it's something like, he tells her that she's not asking for too much, she's just asking the wrong person, and he goes, ask me instead. And I melted. I love this book. I love the lines in this book. I will say, this wasn't a 5-star for me. I'll tell you my rating in just a second, but here's why. There were a couple moments in this book where I was like borderline icked out. I talk about that in my ARC reading vlog. Like, I give kind of more specifics about that. There was a couple things that the MMC did, and I was like, that kind of gave me the ick. Not like the full body ick that completely ruined the book. We had one of those later this month. I'll tell you about that too, but not like the full body, like, I hate this character now kind of ick, but just like, that was kind of like, that would have turned me off of this romance. So there's a couple really small moments like that for me in this book, but overall, phenomenal book. You guys are going to want to read this. It's worth the wait. I pinky swear. 4.5 stars for me. Abby Jimenez, I love her. I love her. I love her as a person. I love engaging with her on social media. I love her writing. I love her work. I love her characters. I love her deep storylines. Just chef's kiss. Amazing. Highly recommend. All right, y'all. And then we had that like burst of new releases, if you know what I'm talking about. I think it was February 6th. February 6th and February 13th. I feel like there was a trillion new releases coming out. So I picked up The Teacher by Frida McFadden. It's on Kindle Unlimited, so I downloaded it on Kindle Unlimited the day it came out. I read this book so quickly. I think I read it in just over 24 hours. So like, I was really reading it fast. But when I read this, I really enjoyed it. I was like there for the vibes, and I rated it while I was still like high on the vibes. But I will say, my sister just read this book after my recommendation, and we've been talking about it. And you know, sometimes when you talk about a book with somebody, I think that's why I talk so much on TikTok and stuff about books, is like, just makes you think more about them. We were talking about it, and I was like, wow, there was a lot of plot holes. There's a lot of weird things that went on in that book that it's like, there's no way that actually happened. So I had originally, when I first finished it, like, I was coming off the fast-paced thriller high that you have when you read a good thriller. I was like 4 stars. That was really solid. Kind of was icky, eerie, all the feels. Now, after sitting on it and discussing with my sister, I think it's a 3-star for me. I will say it did feel a lot different from Frida's thrillers that I read in the past. It's not like medical. A lot of her thrillers, I think she's like a brain surgeon or something. She's like crazy something medical. So a lot of her thrillers take place in like a medical setting of some sort. This was different in that aspect, and it was really icky in a lot of ways, like creepy in an icky kind of way. There was a lot of plot holes now that I look at it, and so I think I'm gonna knock 1 star off that and give this 3 stars. Then we started my Reading Sad Books for a Week vlog, so if you saw that, you're gonna know these books. I won't talk too much about these because I talk obviously very in depth in the vlog, so if you want more details on this, go watch that. But we started off with If Only I Had Told Her. I was so excited for this book. If Only He Had Been With Me, or If He Had Been With Me, If He Had Been With Me was a very emotional read for me. It's a book I recommend a lot if you like want a book that's going to make you cry. I really enjoyed it, even though it was YA and a little bit cringy at times. Like, I did still enjoy it, and it did still like evoke emotion for me, and that's a sign of a good book in my world, like if it really makes you feel deeply. So needless to say, I was super excited when this new release came out. One of my friends actually had it delivered to me, which was the sweetest thing ever, because I pre-ordered from Target. I'm gonna rant. I pre-ordered from Target like when it first got announced, and they canceled my pre-order. It kept getting delayed, and then they're like, we canceled your pre-order. So I was complaining about it to one of my friends and she Amazon shipped it to me to my doorstep, which was the sweetest thing ever. So I read this the second I got it. I was very disappointed. I talk, like I said, way more in depth in that vlog. So if you want all my thoughts on this, go watch the vlog. But I just like, the whole first point of view could have been removed for me. It was just a retelling of book one from a different point of view. And I don't feel like it added anything to the story. The middle point of view was very random who they selected for that point of view. Super weird to me. Even though I was able to connect more to that character, it was random to me that they selected a character that I didn't think was a big part of the story to have a full third of this book be narrated by him. It was a little weird to me. The last third of the book was from the MMC's point of view, the main point of view from the first book. I didn't get what I wanted out of it. I don't know. I don't know if my expectations were too high. I don't know what it was, but no, it just didn't do it for me. A generous 3 stars. That is being generous. And only because I have a connection to those characters do I think it even gets 3 stars. If I were to read this as a standalone, like without any prior knowledge of the first book, I think it'd be a 2 star. Didn't love this, was super disappointed. That was a bummer. And then next in my reading side books for a week vlog, I read Pack Up the Moon, and my reaction to this book was so complicated. I honestly still to this day don't know if I like the ending of this book, but I will say I listened to this on audio. I read the first half and then I listened to the second half, and I would say I would recommend the audio because the different narrators, the different voices, and like the emotion in the voices, I do feel like kind of leveled up the story a little bit. This, though, was a little bit of a letdown. I had heard really amazing things about Kristen Higgins in this book in particular, about like how it was going to make me cry and super emotional and a book that's going to stick with you. To be totally honest, I've already forgotten about half this book. Like, I just don't feel like it really hit me that hard, and maybe that's just like right book, wrong time type of situation, but didn't fall in love with this as much as I expected to and was told that I would. So not so sure about that. I don't know. I think this is a 3 star. I had said 3.5 in my reading side books for a week video. It's really in between 3 and 3.5. I think I said that too. I was like, if 3.25 wasn't like splitting hairs trying to find a rating, I would give it 3.25, but it didn't hit. You know, when a book just hits, you get the feeling, you get the vibes. Didn't have the vibes, and that's really all I can say. There's nothing specific that I can critique about this book. There was nothing bad about this book. I would recommend it if you want a sad book. It just didn't hit. And sometimes it's as simple as that with a book. We rate for vibes here. I'm sorry. There's no like rhyme or reason to my ratings. It's just whether I felt it or not, and I didn't feel it. Okay, and then the last book of the Reading Side Books vlog was The Art of Racing in the Rain. Sobbing. Oh my gosh, I was a mess, an absolute mess when I finished this book. It's the dogs. They get me every time. If you want to make me cry, give me a book about a dog, probably in any context, and I will cry. Book, movie, TikTok video, anything dog related, instant tearjerker for me. This book I did really enjoy. I wasn't sure how I would like being told from the perspective of a dog. That felt like it could potentially be weird or cringy, or I don't know. I wasn't sure going into this. I was surprised by how much I liked reading from the dog's perspective and the dog's point of view. Like, the full narration is from the dog. I really loved it. I think it made it even more emotional. 4 stars for me. This book made me sob. It was really, really good. It was heartwarming in the most heartbreaking way. And then another Kindle Unlimited read, I read The Right Move, which is book 2 in the Windy City series. You know, if you watched my last monthly wrap up, I read Mile High and was obsessed with that book, was also obsessed with this book. I am loving this series. I want to read book 3 in March. It's on my March TBR. Caught Up, I believe, is book 3. I love this series. I love this book. 5 stars. Yes, yes, yes. This is a spicy professional basketball player romance. Book 1 was a professional hockey player, and book 3 is professional baseball player, I believe. So this is the basketball one, and we meet these characters, both of them in book 1, and I liked both of them a lot in book 1, so this was super fun to read, and I read this pretty quickly. It's a longer romance. I think it's close to 500 pages, maybe a little over 500 pages, but I read it fairly quickly and I thoroughly, thoroughly enjoyed it. I enjoy spice when there's also like a deep emotional connection. I think this book did a good job of balancing both. And then the final 2 books here, both are very like pink and girly and aesthetically pleasing, but I read Practice Makes Perfect. This is book 2 in this interconnected standalone series. I read When in Rome last year, and then I read this one. It's a rom-com. It's a closed door, fade to black, so very little / no spice. There's like innuendos, or like they drop like hints and discussion of spice, but there's no spice in this book. It's a rom-com. It was flirty and fun and cute. MMC ended up giving me the ick about 75% of the way through. That was like my Goodreads review. I was having such a good time until I got the ick. And yeah, unfortunately that did happen, but it was still fun. It was super quick. I read this in like just over a day, so fast. It's relatively short, 328, as a rom-com should be. Thank you, Sarah Adams, for keeping your books the appropriate length. Her characters are cute. Her writing is fast. Like, it's fun. Small town. Yeah. 3 stars for me. I feel like a solid 3 stars. It was a good, enjoyable read. Nothing like groundbreaking or earth-shattering, but I didn't expect it to be. And then last but not least, another romance. We have the Happy Ever After playlist by Abby Jimenez. This is book 2 in the Friend Zone series. I read the Friend Zone last month, and then I accidentally read book 3 like last year out of order. I didn't know it was a series when I read them, but I finally got around to finishing the series by reading book 2. Honestly, I think this is my least favorite Abby Jimenez book that I've read. And I don't really know why. I just didn't feel it with them. Kind of like I was saying with Pack Up the Moon. It's just a vibe thing for me when I rate books and when I review books. It's really just like how it feels. And sometimes I don't have a particular like critique or something that I wish was different. There's nothing I actively disliked about the book. It just didn't hit. And that's kind of how I felt about this one. I didn't love the MMC, and I think maybe that's it. We meet the female main character in the friend zone. It's the best friend in the friend zone. I don't know. I don't really have a lot of words because I don't have a reason that I didn't like this book. I really don't have a reasoning. I just didn't love it. So 3 stars for me, which is unfortunate. Abby Jimenez's books are usually more in the 4 or 5 star range for me. So this was like, just kind of fell a little bit flat for me, and maybe I went in with too high of expectations because in my mind Abby Jimenez is queen, and she still is queen. Don't get me wrong, she is still queen. But this is my least favorite Abby Jimenez book. Not to say I hated it or actively didn't like it or would discourage you from reading it. So 3 stars for me on this one. All right, y'all, should we do a little rapid fire recap of everything I read in February? I feel like I was kind of bouncing all over the place there. So I read book 1 through 3 in the Mindf series. That is The Risk, Sidetracked, and Scarlet Angel. Then I read Educated by Tara Westover. Then I read Just for the Summer, an arc by Abby Jimenez, comes out in April. Then I read The Teacher, Frida McFadden's new release. Then If Only I Had Told Her, another new release, book 2 to If He Had Been With Me. And Pack Up the Moon by Krista Higgins. Then The Art of Racing in the Rain, The Dogs Will Get Me Every Single Time. Then The Right Move, book 2 in the Windy City series. Practice Makes Perfect by Sarah Adams. And the Happy Ever After playlist by Abby Jimenez. All right, book besties, those are the 12 books that I read in February. Leave a comment down below telling me your favorite book that you read in February because I want to add them to my TBR. But that's all I have for you today. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss future book vlogs or videos or recs or wrap-ups or anything like that. Lots of fun videos planned coming out in March, so don't miss those, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye, book besties.